Yeah, I have sent to you also.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, Dr. Tiwari.
Good Good afternoon. On behalf of Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery, I welcome today's speaker, Dr. Kaushal Kumar Sharma, Professor and Head Department of Veterinary Surgery and Radiology, College of Veterinary Science, Assam Agriculture University, Guwahati, and all the participants for this ninth webinar. Dr. K.K. Sharma is globally known for his work in the field of wildlife healthcare management and conservation. He is also known as Elephant Man of Asia. As we all know, wild animals are very shy and feel uncomfortable while they are handled for treatment and management purposes for various disorders. In fact, the anesthesia in wild animals is also risky. In spite of many challenges in wildlife surgeries and his relentless effort has led a notable changes in the perspective towards wild animals health care and conservation in India, particularly in survival and conservation of Asian elephants and one-horned rhino. He is first veterinarian to in the entire country to receive the Padma Shri award. Looking to his considerable experiences in handling and management of wild animals, I request Dr. K.K. Sharma to share his wildlife insights through this webinar on challenges of wildlife anesthesia and surgery. Dr. Sharma, sir, please.
Sir, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. At the very outset, I welcome you all to this webinar, which we have arranged in such a testing time. The whole world is passing through a very critical condition because of the COVID-19, and we are all bound in our in offices, all in our home. So it is a very testing time, and it is very depressing and a challenge for all of us. So I thank all of you who joined this program today. And at the very beginning, I want to thank the Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery, as well as the Intas Pharmaceuticals Limited for inviting me to deliver this lecture. I regret some problems in the technicality of presentation, because here in Guwahati the network quality is very poor. So we are managing somehow. Is it okay now? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
so the topic that we are going to discuss today is very relevant. Like those who have in their life experience the wildlife handling, they will realize this. And because from a distance, this activity, wildlife immobilization, it looks very, very romantic, very adventurous. But those who really do it will understand the problems associated with this task. Even yesterday, one elephant was rescued right in the Guwahati city by my colleagues, and also a tiger near Kaziranga National Park. So these things are there every day. And so let us discuss, friends, the challenges that the wildlife veterinarians face, particularly administering anesthesia and the surgery. So can I go to the next slide, please? Next slide, please.
Yeah, just a minute, sir. Devesh?
Yes. So when we speak about wildlife, actually this includes everything except human being that live in the forest, as well as some of the domestic, very limited number of domestic animals. Otherwise, they include all animals, including bees, butterflies, crustacean, fish and moths, and aquatic or land vegetation, that which forms the part of any natural habitat. Previous slide, please. Previous, please. So I regret the problem of the presentation. So anyway, if we go about the conservation status of India, we have a very good diverse conditions. We have 120 national parks. We have over 500 wildlife sanctuaries, and 4.9% of our total surface area of the country is under forest cover. But we should remember, friends, that actually we should have at least 13% land under forest cover, but we have only 1,56,700 square kilometer of area under forest cover, and which is only 4.9% of the total surface area, which is massless. Next. So when we talk of immobilizing or capturing animals, actually the wildlife protection, if you go by Wildlife Protection Act, this is also hunting. You know, hunting is an offense. So in that way, if we go for wildlife immobilization or handle wildlife or disturb their eggs or their babies, so this is also hunting. So without legal authorization, we should not do this. We cannot do this because this is legally punishable offense. Next, please. Next, please. So as I have said, we have a lot of wildlife in India, so many species of herbivorous, so many species of carnivore species, bear, and please go on. Please go on. So I just kind of album, so many species we have. The monkey species, you have, because we have diverse areas. We have very high altitude, and we have the aquatic areas, we have low-lying areas. So we have lots of wildlife, and we have the task of immobilizing or performing surgery of all these diverse animals. Next, please. So, friends, we must remember at the very beginning that the things have changed very rapidly. When nobody considered veterinarians as an important integral component of the wildlife conservation, but today the situation is changed. So we have multiple tasks in our hand, and by this, actually, we can make a mark in wildlife conservation. And today, the Wildlife Authority cannot consider wildlife management without the help of the veterinarians. So we are there for rescue and rehabilitation of stray and trapped animals. We do nurse and care for abandoned infants. Then we perform surgery and treatment of injured and sick animals, diagnosis, treatment and management of sick, free-ranging as well as captive wild animals. We need to perform radio telemetry. So that is actually putting radio collar to particular animal for monitoring its movements. Then prevention and management of epidemics, prevention and management of zoonotic diseases, population management. Suppose, for example, we have certain species of animals where the population is excessive, like monkey, for example. So we know some of our states like Himachal Pradesh, they are having a program over 10 years on population management of monkey. So similarly, we have our zoos where a lot of the conservation breeding program is going on. This is also for population management. Somewhere we have an excess population compared to the size of the habitat. In some other areas we have a smaller population. So we need to restore the population. So these tasks are all done by the veterinarians. Then now, because of the increase in human population, so we have very severe human-animal conflict. So for mitigation of this conflict also, veterinarians have to play very important role. Then for forensics also, like the wildlife crime takes place and the proper forensic study, proper forensic identification helps in the conviction rate. Then of course, biological research. So today we have multiple tasks and the veterinary profession is emerging as a very important profession in the area of wildlife conservation. Next, please. Now, let us talk about the anesthesia or say immobilization, because the immobilization is the mainstay of the wildlife handling. If we need to handle wildlife, what is called, like we have ex situ, in situ, now and invasive, non-invasive. Like whenever we talk of invasive management, we need to go for immobilization in most of the cases. In the past, there was non-invasive type of management. So now that doesn't work in most of the places. An animal we cannot ignore, even a single animal cannot be ignored because of the important genetic material that it carries. So for treatment, including surgery, then rescue of stray animals, translocation. So you know this is a very important task in our hand, because quite often animals are coming out, straying out to human settlement. They need to be captured and translocated. And then suppose in a particular park, the habitat is suitable for a certain species, and there is a history that that park had, for example, Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. In the past, that area has the history of, say, rhinoceros population, and the habitat is still good. But because of some regions, like particularly anthropogenic regions, the rhinos are not there. So the rhinos were translocated from Nepal as well as Assam, and like a population is growing in Dudhwa. Similarly, in Manas National Park in Assam, the almost the entire population of rhinos were poached during the disturbed time. Then we have translocated rhinos from Kaziranga National Park as well as from Povitara Wildlife Sanctuary to Manas National Park. And today a population is establishing there. So from 0 to we have achieved 45 number of rhinos in Manas National Park. So population management, I have already said, where there is an excess population, we need to do something like vasectomy or castration, or if there is a lower population, we need to bring in animals by the method of translocation or by going for captive breeding program. Then radio telemetry, I have already said, suppose studying the movement pattern of wild animal herd or a single animal, we capture that animal, put the radio collar and release it back. Then for studies, biological sampling, then control of rogue animals, which is a very important task these days, because now see, management of human-animal conflict. So these things are there. Now, next please. Next please. Now, see, for capturing animal, we have two methods. That is physical method as well as chemical. But here we are talking about the chemical methods. That is mostly use of anesthetic drugs. In the past, physical methods were used, and even now some of the areas we use physical methods. But we understand that this actually causes a lot of injury, and nervousness of the animal causes biological alterations that are fatal. So nowadays, the use of anesthetic drugs are more preferred. Now, an ideal immobilizing drug for using in wild animals require to have a lot of good qualities, like they must be very potent, because we can use only very small volume, the small volume of drug, because a big volume we cannot administer by dirting or by remote injection. Then these drugs, the action of these drugs should be reversible whenever we need. For example, even yesterday we have rescued one elephant. It ran into water. So you have to save the life of the animal, and in that case you have to administer the reversible agent. Then titrable, by this we say that we need to bring down the level of sedation to an acceptable limit. Like, for example, we have captured an elephant and now we want to keep it in restraint. So then we do not, after the animal is chained, we do not need a very high degree of immobilization, but we need sedation. So instead of using another sedative, we can titrate the dose of or the level of sedation by giving a reversible drug of that particular dose. The drug should be water soluble for quick absorption. Drugs should have higher margin of safety, and this is very important because we cannot actually judge the body weight of the animal. So often we speculate the body weight and administer the drug. If drugs do not have high margin of safety, it is likely to cause fatality. So therefore, it is very important. And of course, the drugs must be easily available, and drugs should be useful for many species. As in the very beginning, I have said that we have to handle so many species. We cannot carry different types of drugs for different species. Then the drugs should be non-toxic to the handlers. You all know that certain drugs like the opiates that I will come now are highly toxic to the handlers also. Even by inhaling its vapor, we may get intoxicated or may even die. So it is very important quality. Then it should be non-irritant to tissues, because when you dirt and if the drug causes severe irritation to the tissue, the animal will become very like irritated, or the animal will, it may cause like run away far distances. Then the drug should be low cost. It should not be very heavily cost, so that we cannot cost prohibitive. It should not be. Then it should have a longer shelf life. We should be able to keep the drug for a longer time, because all these drugs are imported. We need to buy them from foreign countries. So therefore, these drugs should have a longer shelf life. Next, please. So, see, I am just concluding this part of the lecture, but I want to say that at the very beginning, I said when you handle situations on wildlife, then only you know. Now, the experience will tell you what are the different situations that you are likely to face. So, we are from our experience, we have learned the hard way, and that is why we feel it important that we should share it. If you are immobilizing an animal near a water body, there is every likelihood that some of the animals, like say for example elephant or rhino or even a water buffalo, is likely to run into water and get drowned. So we need to be prepared for that. So in this picture you can see that there are tubes, inflated tubes, so that this particular rhino, which was immobilized and ran into water, we could save the life of the rhino by putting the water tube. And similarly, if you are immobilizing an elephant in a steep hill, you should always realize that if you use a drug that will bring down the animal, like for example, the opiates. So what will happen? The elephant will roll down the hills and may injure itself or may even die. So therefore, we should be ready for facing these critical field situations that can arise out of chemical capture. Next, please. So now I said that the dosing, like and they have different doses. So I show you this picture. This is a young rhino. Its body weight will be hardly 500 kg. Now it is people may think that the rhinos are smaller, but an adult rhino weighs up to 2,200 kg, and even a young rhino like this, which is around 3 years old, had an injury over the left eye, and so for this operation, I like one zoo vet was also there with me, and I asked him to load the drug. Now he loaded actually in the rate of 1 milligram per 100 kg body weight. Now I just asked how much drug you have loaded. He said at this dose. I said, where did you get it this dose? Because for rhino, the dose is much different. Now he said from the leaflet says 1 milligram per 100 kg body weight in horses. Now I don't know why this drug was labeled for horses. Etorphine or immobilon is highly potent drug, and here in India we never use it for horses. These are exotic to be imported, and this drug is most useful for rhinos. In fact, we don't have an alternative drug other than M99 or a combination of this, which we call as immobilon. Now, see, the dose of etorphine is 1 milligram per 100 kg body weight in case of horses, and 1 milligram per 500 kg body weight in case of rhinoceros. So that experience is very important. Now again, as I said, 1 milligram per 500 kg body weight in rhinoceros. But see, again, it was interesting that we took this dose from Harthrun, who worked in South Africa for the African rhinos. Now, when we have used this in Asian rhinos, we found that the dose is not adequate. So after like lot of experience, now we have concluded that the dose for etorphine in Asian rhino is 1 milligram per 400 kg body weight. So this type of experience sharing is very important. So we have published this thing, and today also I am trying to tell you that for different animal, the same drug may have different doses. A lot of experience is required to be a good wildlife veterinarian for safely performing anesthesia in wildlife. Next, please. Next, please. So we have used etorphine alone or in combination with acepromazine in lot of such operations in rhinos, and now the dose is standardized as 1 milligram per 400 kg body weight. Next, please. So here I am showing the rhino translocation program. So one thing you can mark, see the arrangements that you need. Here you can see at least 3 important stuff, or in fact 4. You can see 2 JCBs, you see a truck, you see a big wooden crate, then sleighs. So for wildlife anesthesia and wildlife work, you need a lot of arrangements. But most of the time, the wildlife authority have no understanding, and they try to force upon our veterinarians to undertake a task. And because of lack of this type of understanding, lack of facilities, quite often the wildlife suffer, and the wildlife veterinarian become unfortunate victim of criticism. Next, please. Next, please. So here I am showing the human-elephant conflict. So here you can see that this is a tiger that strayed into human area, human-elephant. Please go on. So a tiger darted. You can see the right place for darting. You can see our Dr. Parag Nigam from Wildlife Institute of India translocating tiger. And here he used a helicopter for translocating tiger. He is a lucky guy. He works in Wildlife Institute. But all our field veterinarians. So here you can see we have rescued an elephant calf from the middle of river Brahmaputra during the peak of flood. So you can see the arrangements that you need, and the knowledge of the drugs, like what are the different types of drugs you need, and how you will manage a situation like this when you are rescuing an elephant, because middle of Brahmaputra you cannot carry any other instruments, so everything has to be done manually, and so the very good understanding of drug is important, like not only the immobilizing drug, the supporting drugs, vitamin E and selenium to prevent any capture myopathy. Then suppose we are ferrying the elephant in a boat. So suppose the elephant wake up in the middle of the river, and what will happen? So you must know how to handle a situation. So my appeal to all my young veterinarians that just don't undertake such operations alone. First work with some experienced veterinarians, and you know that there are so many facets of this task, and this is so important. Next, please. So quite often we need to perform surgery, captive or wild animals and then we need to administer anesthesia, which is appropriate. So here, besides the sedative, you can perform the surgery with even local anesthesia. Next, please. So this was a wild elephant, and because it is to visit the paddy farms, so some paddy farmer has thrown a spear. The tip of that was inside the tissue of the elephant and forming a huge abscess. So we had to capture, and so this is a very important task of veterinarians. So I said even for surgery or so many other operations, the administration of anesthesia is very important. Now, in India, you almost everywhere you get elephants, and for elephants we have suitable drugs, which unfortunately we do not have for many other animals. Next, please. Next, please. So quite often captive elephants become aggressive, and you need to subdue them, control them. Then another wild elephant, like here I am showing an accidental electrocution of wild elephants. So see, though it is falling, it is still active. So without inducing anesthesia, you cannot go for its treatment. Next, please. Next, please. So, see, you must have seen the previous one, please. So, in Animal Planet, in National Geographic, you see very adventurous operations like which are so attractive. But in our condition in India, in rural areas, you have to work like this in mud, and you can just see the jugaad that I had to do for administering some medication to a wild elephant, which was falling near a village. So that is how we have to like adapt to our conditions. Next, please. So wild elephants, I say already I mentioned that even captive elephants, they become killer. The elephants fall in trances and all that. So we need to rescue. We have a multiple task in our hand. And so a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge of drug is important. Of course, you also should have stocks. Next, please. So human-animal conflict, human-wildlife conflict, like here, you can see the leopard. It's right in the city, Guwahati city. A leopard entered someone's house, and the person who went to bring the bicycle was attacked by the leopard, and his scalp over his head was removed. Fortunately, this man survived. And now it is every day. Even today, there is a leopard trap in one place in Guwahati. So our the wildlife veterinarians are having very busy time now. Next, please. So then a wild snake, which is so common in various places on seashores, and even recently you must have heard in Baghjan where there was an oil slick fire in. So the birds and other wild animals, they are affected, and you have to go and handle these animals safely. Next, please. So, two occasions I am showing where, like, Yelma. This left side picture is from yesterday. My colleagues, they immobilized a wild elephant and loaded in a truck and released in the wild. So then I also mentioned about the radio collaring. So this is a bull that causes havoc in some neighborhood villages. So just to know its movement, predict its movement, or get information about its movement, radio collaring is important. So many elephants have been radio collared all over India now. Even this year, in the beginning, one elephant was radio collared by our colleagues in Chhattisgarh, and in Assam also we have radio collared quite a good number. So this is also a very important task. You have to handle the elephant safely and put the radio collar and release it back. Next, please. Now, coming to the drug part, I told you that we have very limited approaches so far as potent drugs for wild animal use is concerned. So these are neuromuscular blocking agents. In the past, these drugs, depolarizing or non-depolarizing drugs, were used. Though the operations were successful, quite often they found that the animals succumb after the operation. Later on, it was realized that when we realized the anesthetic triad, that in anesthesia, there are actually three components: sedation, relaxation, and analgesia. Of course, in every operation, we may not need analgesia, but while we actually handle a wild animal, we need sedation and muscle relaxation. Unfortunately, for neuromuscular blocking agents, they only relax the muscles, but the central nervous system, the awakeness was there. So the unfortunate wild animals were fully conscious while they were being handled by human beings. So even after these operations were carried out successfully, whatever operation, many a times they died. So therefore, in the wildlife now, the neuromuscular blocking agents are not used. Next, please. Then come the centrally acting compounds like opioids. I have mentioned several in several discussions regarding the narcotics. So opioids, they are very potent synthetic agents used for immobilization of ungulates. So I said etorphine. Etorphine is primarily used in India, and of course it is not available in India. We have to bring it from abroad. So etorphine alone or with various combinations like etorphine, xylazine, or etorphine, acipромazine, which is also a phenothiazine derivative. These combinations are very popular and are used in many animals. So mostly etorphines are used in rhino. In fact, in case of rhino, you don't have alternative drugs. In some younger rhinos, we have tried miditomidine, a potent alpha-2 adrenoceptor drug, with some success. But primarily for wild ungulates, we need the opiates. So there again, you have to consider, like I said, that when you combine etorphine with acipромazine, and after your operation is over, you reverse it with the antagonist like M5050. Now the acipромazine component is not reversed. So if you release an animal like this, it becomes vulnerable to the predators. So that is one issue, and there are a lot of issues like this. So then you have the cyclohexamines, primarily characterized by the ketamine or tyletamine. These are very popular drugs and are used almost in every species. Ketamine is very safe drug for the cat species, but because of the low potency, because we cannot administer high volume to wild felines, So we have to combine with other drugs. Next, please. Then comes the alpha-2 adrenergic agonist. So their effect varies from very mild sedation to up to immobilization. So primarily these two drugs, xylazine and medetomidine, are popular in wild animal anesthesia or sedation. So in India, xylazine is primarily used alone or with combination with ketamine. In fact, this combination, xylazine and ketamine combination, which is called a Hellebrand mixture, that was used extensively in Munich Zoo. That is why the name of the area is Hellebrand. So this combination, Hellebrand mixture. But later on, we got medetomidine, which is 30 times potent over xylazine. But unfortunately, it is cost prohibitive and very difficult to procure. But this is definitely a better drug and very potent drug compared to xylazine. Next, please. Now, I have been telling that a drug is generally not used alone because the three anesthetic triad, that is sedation, then relaxation and analgesia, all these three components cannot be satisfactorily obtained from a single drug. So we combine, and when we combine, we get the synergistic effect, and we also find that the deleterious effect of one drug can be mitigated by some other effect of another drug. So therefore, combination therapy or combination drug use is very popular in wildlife. So xylazine and ketamine, as I said, is a very popular combination. Then medetomidine ketamine is similarly popular combination. Tylatamine, zolazepam. Now this drug has come to India as well. It's being marketed in Indian company. Then etorphine, acipромazine, the very famous Immobilon LA or Immobilon SA. Then now for the antelope species, particularly the deer, BAM is becoming very popular. That is butyrophenol, azaperon, and medetomidine. Then fentanyl citrate, droperidol, and all combination of narcotic as well as sedative. So various combinations are available, and we need to use it judiciously. And those drugs, for example, tylatamine, zolazepam, it's a good drug, but the problem with us is that it doesn't have a reversal. At the very beginning, when I said that we need a drug which can be reversed, so xylazine or medetomidine or etorphine are preferred because of this particular quality, that their effects can be quickly reversed. Next, please. Now, summing up the challenges in wild animal anesthesia. Now, when we go for handling a wild animal with sedation, administration of sedation, we cannot have a proper judgment on the body weight. The body weight is only speculated. Now, say for example, there is an elephant. You ask a villager, so what could be the height of the elephant? You want to know its body weight. The villager will say 13 feet, sir, 12 feet, sir. Actually, the elephant will be 8 feet, maybe. So if you go by this type of comments, you have a highly skewed estimate, and that can be a big issue. Like you can grossly overdose an animal and be in trouble, or you can severely underdose the animal and be a failure. Then you cannot have pre-anesthetic evaluation of vital parameters. Now, any human being undergo an anesthetic like session, what is done? All vital parameters are judged. His blood pressure, his liver, lung, kidney, every parameter is studied. Now, even in our captive animals, particularly in companion animal practice, nowadays our doctors are going for the evaluation so that the margin of safety is higher. Now, in case of wild animal, you don't have that kind of a luxury. You have to assume that the animal is okay. Now, things are not always okay. You never know. a certain wild animal if there is an internal problem. Say, for example, for two regions, like wild animals have an issue with predation. So just to hide their bodily disorders, they mask diseases. Like that is what to save themselves from the predators. Because if the predator observe that this particular animal is down, he can be easy prey. So he want to mask his symptom. So that is one. And the other thing is that, like many seriously affected, seriously ill animal apparently look normal. Like I remember my professor telling me in 70s, one by one, 16 deer were immobilized in Delhi Zoo, and all of them died. But apparently they were looking, all looking very healthy. On postmortem, it was found that their lungs were full of tuberculosis nodule, but apparently they were healthy. So you go for immobilization for a sample collection or something, the animal die, you are in a big trouble. So that is a big problem with us, that we cannot have a pre-anesthetic evaluation of the parameters. Then different species respond differently. For example, just now I said that, for example, rhino, it needs 1 milligram per 400 kg body weight, but a horse needs, I am talking about iterfin, 1 milligram per 100 kg body weight. So that kind of species variation is put you in difficult situation. Like there are certain species which are really difficult, like the water buffalo. You go with any drug and very errant. Like sometimes you can get them down with xylazine ketamine, but sometimes even miditomycin ketamine doesn't work. Sometimes even narcotics doesn't work. So such a fastidious species, and so the species response is different to different drugs. And in our condition, monitoring and resuscitation equipments are scarce. You have to go just looking up to your God. So that is, at the best, you can carry a stethoscope or a handy pulse oximeter. Otherwise, you can't carry any other monitoring or resuscitation equipment to the field. You cannot prevent feed or water intake, which is so important. There is a basic class. Whenever we take, we suggest our students say food and water should be withdrawn for, food should be withdrawn for 12 hours, water should be withdrawn for 6 hours prior to anesthesia. Now, what about the wild animal? You probably, when you are dirtying, the animal is probably eating. So what happens because of that? The animal will have a bloat, and that bloat regurgitation can kill the animal. So I have experienced that in case of buffalo. You need to be ready with such animals. Like there will be bloating. You need to have trocar and cannula or other resuscitation equipment so that you can save the animal from a disaster. Then approach an animal for dirtying involves great risk. I will come to that. In Africa or other countries, they have helicopters and that kind of savanna that you can see the animal, they can dirt safely. And in our condition, see, you have to walk to the animal. You want to save or do some good to the animal will not understand. He will try to kill you. So approach for dirtying, that involves great risk to the life and limbs of the veterinarian. And the environmental rigors are difficult to manage. Like suppose we are translocating, planned translocation. You can plan the season or the time of the day. But when there is an injury or a stray animal, you don't have that luxury, You have to go and capture the animal. So if it is a very hot, sunny day and you have immobilized that animal, most of these immobilizing drugs, almost every immobilizing drug, they affect the thermoregulatory center. So animal will be overheated under direct exposure to sun, or it will be hypothermic if it is an extremely cold condition. So it is very difficult to manage this type of environmental rigors. Problem of acquiring proper dirtying equipment for appropriate species. Say for example, you have thick skin animal, rhino, elephant. They are skin are very thick. You need a different kind of equipment compared to, suppose you are dirtying monkeys or some antelope or a tiger. They are thin skin animal. You need different kind of equipment. Then again, certain equipment, there is a possibility of drug leakage. So when you are using narcotic drugs, which there is even a remote possibility of leakage, it is great danger to the handler. So like in every condition, you don't have the luxury of having the appropriate kind of dirtying equipment, and you have to manage. So the worst problem in my career of wildlife management spanning over 3.5 decades has been managing inquisitive crowd. So I will come to that. Next, please. So I was talking about inquisitive crowd. Just see this picture and then you imagine. So an elephant has strayed into human settlement area, which was fully flooded. And when I went for its rescue, and that was the situation, like every conceivable area was, full of, you can see the sea of humanity. Even many are on the top of the trees. Next, please. So how can you actually operate in such conditions? See, I am going with the Kunki and at least 1,000 people following you. So in this condition, you go to dirt an animal, and how can you ensure safety of those people? And the safety of those people are also your responsibility. Like later on, fingers will be pointed towards you that why you have not ensured the safety of those people. And that is the situation we have to work. And many a times when we go for rescuing a tiger or even the people, villagers, irate villagers, they go after us. They want to hit us as if the tiger belongs to me and I have let it loose. So the veterinarians have to face. Many a time I have seen the forest guards run away when the public become hostile. Next, please. So I said that in developed countries, in Western, particularly in Africa, they have a helicopter for dirting. Just see the safety compared to us. Next, please. This type of facilities, we cannot imagine. Say a rhino can be translocated like this. Who can imagine here? Next, please. So for translocation, they simply use a helicopter, and within half an hour, the operation is over. The same operation takes 2 days for us. Next. Now I mentioned about the danger of dirting. So this is a very famous picture. The person that you see in the picture was a professor in the Kerala Veterinary College in Trichur. The elephant that was used in a festival developed must in the festival itself and started destroying properties and killing people. And our veterinarian who went for dirting and was chased by the elephant, and after a moment he was killed. And that was the last picture many of you will know. Next, please. So that is the danger of the veterinarians working in this field. So we have here in northeastern India, we have some advantage of our Kunki elephants. The trained captive elephants give us some safety because we can ride on them and approach and so go with little bit of a safety. Next, please.
Sir, if you can remove the earphones, it will be good, sir. It is.
Okay, okay. So here also you can see, am I audible? Dr. Bhatia,
Yes,
am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Better.
Yes, sir, better. Okay, okay. So of course this picture is from Dudhua. So you can see that the trained captive elephants provide us great help for dirting of rhino or other dangerous species. Next, please. Next, can I have the next slide? So here you can see, sometimes you have to ride, you have to climb on a tree for dirting, sometimes taking the risk of life. So an injured elephant, of course, but wild elephant anyway was darted from the ground. Next, please. So this involves great risk to the life of the veterinarian. Another occasion. Next, please. So at the very beginning, I said that you need to face critical situations. The same picture again. Next, please. So a very small pulse oximeter. So these are the only small things that we can carry. That also in those operations which are planned, like for rhino translocation. But for rescue operations and all that, it is extremely difficult. Next, please. Now, before going to discuss about the challenges of surgery in wild animals, so I want to summarize that the authority must understand now that immobilizing or handling wild animal involves great risk. So for that, we need proper training, we need physical conditioning of the veterinarians, we need all facilities and proper understanding on the part of the authority to be successful in this kind of operations. So when I talk about the surgery, actually when I discuss about the immobilization, the major part has been discussed already. But here again, if we talk about the challenges of performing surgery in wild animals, I will just summarize. So here also you have legal obligations, because without the authorization, like you know, in the state, the Chief Wildlife Warden is the legal authority for giving you permission. But generally, it is the other way around. The authority requests us, but they must have a written request, so that suppose something happens, you are not in trouble. The challenges of restraint I have already discussed. Then once again, proper diagnosis of a condition like X-ray or ultrasonography are very difficult in field conditions. And nowadays, portable equipment are available. And these things, I demand that these things are made available to our veterinarians so that they can perform much better. Then challenges of safe anesthesia, then surgical asepsis and post-operative antisepsis. This is the most difficult part, because you have to work in a muddy condition up in the hill, where even getting a mug full of water is difficult. So in such condition, performing aseptic surgery is not possible. And even post-operative antisepsis is also very difficult. What we do is that after the surgery is over, we give a long-acting antibiotic, and so repeatedly we cannot go and like dress the wound or repeatedly give the antibiotic drugs, because if you want to do that every day, you will have to like give anesthesia to the animal. Then at the very beginning also I have talked about predator concern, because when you perform a surgery or like you have to put the animal in anesthesia, some anesthesia will have lingering effect. So if you leave a sedated animal in the forest, he will become victim to the predators. So that is a big concern. So that is why we don't want a drug to have a lingering effect. And if it happens, we have to leave some forest guards so that the animal is, see, predation takes place, it is normal, but then we cannot capture an animal and let it be there for predation. So that we cannot do. That is why when we capture the animal, we should ensure its safety. And so there are a lot of other post-operative issues. Suppose it is a fracture and it is a wild condition. You cannot have that luxury that you can have in the operation theater. You cannot have, because you will not be able to manage it. So these are the most important challenges for wildlife surgeons. Next, please. an operation theater in a Western facility. So here you can imagine a similar facility we do not have for our companion animal or our government hospitals. So they have it. So when you have facility, your performance will also improve like that. Next, please. So such wounds in the forest, when you treat, it is extremely unpleasant to leave it like this, but you have to leave it like this. There is no alternative. That is the problem of wildlife anesthesia. Next, wildlife surgery. They have lots of problem, food affections. Of course, the food affections are a very common thing for captive elephants, but we have seen sometimes food affections in wild animals as well, which is mostly connected to the substrate conditions. Next, please. Next, please. So sometimes you can bring, if the wild animal is younger or manageable size, you can bring it to your hospital for an X-ray or ultrasound, but that is extremely difficult. Next, please. So this is an ultrasonic pregnancy diagnosis. If you have proper equipment, things are not difficult, but here again, we don't have the proper equipment with us, so difficulty. Next, please. So the gravid uterus with the baby. Next, please. So you can just imagine our working conditions. So like that only we have to work, and we don't mind this, provided the society recognize the services of the field veterinarians, particularly those who work in such testing conditions. Next, please. So this is a wild animal which had a gunshot wound. So sometimes we have successfully, but not always. So this type of surgery, this was a wild animal, surgically the bullet was removed. Next, please. So while talking about wild animals are also kept in zoos. So zoo animal healthcare is also important task of the veterinarians, and here they have one advantage, that they know many biological parameters of zoo animals, and for surgery or anesthesia they can withdraw food, or they can have other, or they can have squeeze cage and all that, which the free ranging animal, in case of free ranging animal, we don't have. Next, please. Next, please. The animals, after sometimes they are captured for training to make them captive Kunki elephants. So I said that the Kunki elephants are our helicopters. They are very important component of wildlife management, and they are very useful to the veterinarians also who work in the field of wildlife healthcare, particularly in the field conditions. So they are very important. Next, please. Now I want to almost come to the concluding part of my lecture. So there is not much, but what I want to highlight is that when you are in the field working, so you should not have any air. You should be ready for any kind of action, because this is a group. In India, our people have that kind of feeling. So that is my position. I should not do this. See, finally, your success will be counted by the safety of the animal or safety of the operation. So you have to do anything. We work throughout, I said, over 3.5 decades, we have worked like this. Even at this age, I don't mind lending my hands or pulling of a rope, where many other people will be just onlookers. I never be an onlooker in the field, and probably that is how I succeeded in the field level. Next, please. So you cannot complain. That was the cup where I had a cup of tea. Just for a fun, I am giving you. In the field condition, in the wild, in the rural areas, you have to manage. You cannot complain for your personal comfort. Your task should be to achieve, to succeed, for which you have left your home. Next, please. So if you have a chance, take a nap wherever. This is inside Kaziranga during flood. So after walking for over 20 kilometers to treat a rhino, like that, I never complain. Next, please. So finally, when you succeed, that brings the smile to your face. Next, please. So finally, the challenges, once again, I would say that lack of understanding. So not to speak of the common people, not to speak of the administrators or politicians, even our own veterinary fraternity, there is lack of understanding. Many people think that it is just having fun going to the wildlife work. So that is why I have shown you some of the pictures. There are thousands of such instances where for 2 days we had to just starve in the field. We had to spend the night on the treetop. A veterinarian, field veterinarian, wildlife veterinarian will have to be ready. Then another thing, that a wildlife veterinarian must be physically and mentally ready for difficult tasks. He should be able to swim. He should be able to climb trees or run away or climb hills like that. So then the other thing is that we don't have proper training opportunity in India. So like myself or my colleagues in the whole country, we have learned the hard way. Actually, honestly speaking, we didn't have proper training opportunity. We committed mistake and we learned. And that is why we want to share with everybody that they do not do the same mistake. And we have a highly skewed vet wildlife ratio. At the very beginning, first slide itself, I said, we have a large wildlife in India, diverse wildlife, and 3 biodiversity hotspot areas, but we have very few wildlife vet. So this is a very important area to be looked into. We have very inadequate facilities. We have very low availability of immobilizing drugs and difficulty in procurement. So at least today Intas is here with us. They can probably help us because they are the people to whom we look every time. We cannot go to South Africa or Singapore for bringing anesthetic drug. We have not a single one in India. At least some very commonly used drugs should be there because they have a good market also now. Now all over India, the anesthetic drugs are used. Good market is there. So Dr. Bhatia, please take note of this. Then inadequate fund support. Fund is very less. Somehow we are managing. And public has very high expectation. Do you know why? Because they see Animal Planet, they see National Geographic, and they see those rosy things. But they do not know that those are only this drama. We do not do drama. We have to do it in the real life and without all those facilities. Not only me, all my colleagues who are working in the field. We cannot go for drama. Our public will take care of us. So very high expectation of public, and that makes things very difficult for us. And together with the inquisitive character of our people. If you see in a Western country or in a developed country, a wild animal strays out in a town area or human settlement area, you will see only the group of the experts who have gone there to capture or rescue the animal. In India, what you will see? In India, you will see at least 10,000 people already ready before you reach there. And when you will reach, they will be shouting at you, why so late? So even army cannot reach quicker than that. And neither anybody has provided me a helicopter that I can fly and reach there. But that is the first question you have to face from the local, that why you are so late. So like that. Moreover, suppose we work in institution, there is a continuity. But in the field condition, the veterinarians are deputed from the animal husbandry department to work in the wildlife. They work for 2 or 3 years and they have to leave. So that consistency is not there. And we can all appreciate that these are highly skilled work, a lot of knowledge and an expert area. So suddenly you cannot become an expert. And by the time you learn something, you have to leave. So I have been demanding always that in India, we must have wildlife veterinary cadre, just like Indian Forest Service. We must have Indian Forest Veterinary Service, so that they have high position and like the expertise is there. After proper training and proper exposure, they come and serve. We will get much better service rather than the people like us who are like makeshift experts. And so the public nuisance and intolerance, this is the biggest problem that I have been telling and facing. So next, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. So, Dr. Bhatia, I have concluded my lecture. So, if there is interaction, now we can go for it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Questions are many, sir.
So, I can take some. You select and yeah.
The first question says, how can I become a successful, how can I roll into veterinary and then wildlife? If I want to pursue a career in wildlife, what should I do?
First, he has to become a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Right? First, he has to become a veterinarian if he want to like contribute as a wildlife veterinarian. So, if he is a veterinarian first, then I will suggest that like he will have to choose a department. Like, for example, surgery is an ideal department to become a wildlife veterinarian, because I said the primary approach to wildlife treatment is through anesthesia. But you know, there are other areas. The surgeons, the anesthetists, they work in the field. But there are people, pathologists, there are people, microbiologists, there are people, medicine people. They are all strongly wildlife veterinarians. They are working, but they do not come to the front always. My hats off to them, because in my career, it was always the support from the fellow veterinarians who are from other departments. They help. So, but the glamour is for, like maybe whoever student has asked you, for him, he is interested for the glamour part of it. A glamour part of it is there in the field. But with glamour, risk is also there. And if you really want to take up that glamorous risk, then you have to ready yourself. First, you have a degree, then you work with an expert, physically like make yourself competent, be a swimmer, be a runner, learn how to climb a tree, and learn to use the tranquilizing gun, learn about the anesthetic drugs. Like that only you have to approach.
So the next question is that what are the surgical conditions which happen in wildlife? Because your was a big topic, so
yes, sir, yes.
Asked more about surgery.
The most common surgical affection in wild animal is fracture, I think, because in animal in our area or hilly areas, the animal fall from some areas like that.
we also get injuries inflicted by from infighting or injuries inflicted by predators. So generally, if it is a Schedule 1 animal, like highly endangered animal, then only in the wild we approach. Otherwise, we don't approach, because the predation is a normal phenomena. It will, like what the tigers will eat if you don't allow any animal for them. So that is a normal thing, but injuries are there. And in zoos, again, fractures, other surgical affections are there. Tumor is a very common thing. Cyst is a common thing, like that. For working elephants, the commonest surgical affection is, of course, there is a condition called Farah gall, which is very common, most common. Then you have bursitis. Huge bursitis are there in captive elephants. Then you have foot affections, avulsion of toenail, or like that. These kind of surgical affections are also common.
Yes, sir. The next question is, what are the common anesthetics which are used in wildlife, and what is the ratio of ketamine and xylazine in case I use it?
This is a good question. Actually, the commonest drug is xylazine ketamine. They are the commonest drug, and beauty of this drug is that there is a high margin of safety, and it is relatively cheap. You can get it in India, though it is imported, and it can be, effects can be reversed. That is the beauty of xylazine. But some problem is there with xylazine, that it can induce abortion, because when used in higher dose, it can behave like prostaglandin in the uterus. So that is a problem. Then, like for ratio you are asking, actually, if you go by the Heilbronn ratio that I have mentioned, that is 4:1. 4 xylazine, 1 ketamine. So that is the Heilbronn ratio. But see, that ratio, there is not obligatory that you have to follow that ratio always. We do not follow. We follow our own ratio. Suppose, for example, yesterday that elephant was dirted by my student. Now he has a dart, metal dart of 7 ml size, but he has to administer anesthesia to the elephant. So he choose, as per my suggestion, 500 milligram of xylazine and 200 milligram of ketamine. So here 5:2. Then suppose you have a tiger to be anesthetized in the zoo. Now, though ketamine is the drug of choice for feline, if you go for ketamine, it is say 20 milligram per kg body weight. The volume will be too high. You will have to give 12 ml or 15 ml of ketamine. That you cannot give. So here we give say 200 milligram of xylazine and 200 milligram of ketamine, 1:1. So ratio, you can, the beauty of this drug is you can make your own ratio depending on the particular species.
Sir, one question comes forward from good number of speakers is, how much time it takes for an animal to come back after antidote is used or after a sedative is used? It is a inquisitive question from.
Yeah. So generally it depends on the type. When I use xylazine or miditomidine, and if I use an appropriate reversal drug, etipamezole, we have seen the animal is reversed within 3 minutes, maximum 3 minutes when you give the reversal intravenously. Maximum 3 minutes, the animal will be reversed. But sometimes we do not give it intravenously. Suppose you have performed a surgery in an elephant, and then after reversing, you want to leave it. Now you have to move away from the scene safely. In such cases, what we do, suppose the drug volume comes 3 ml. What we do, we give 1.5 ml intramuscularly and 1.5 ml intravenously, so that the recovery is little slow. We know the drug, we know the potency of the drug, we are 100% sure. So that is why we make this kind of arrangement and slowly move away. When we give narcotics in rhinos, that is Immobilon or M99 alone, so there also when we give the reversal drug, that is naltrexone or M5050 or Revivon, whatever. So we have seen the animal is revived within 2 to 2.5 minutes, and the animal can stand within 4 minutes time. So you can say the reversal is within 3 minutes on an average in most of the cases.
Do field wildlife animals need mineral mixture supplementation?
Of course they need. And many people do not know. The forest department, they have a system of salt lick. You know, if you go to any forest, you will find some natural salt lick. In every forest, there is some natural salt lick, and the animals in batches, like once the elephant will come, elephants will leave, then the maybe rhino will come, then the deer species will come, at night pigs will come. So they leak from that natural salt lick. But sometimes, for example, if you go to Jaldapara National Park of West Bengal, they want to show the wild animals. So in a certain part in front of the guest house, they place the mineral mixture, and there also you will see the animals come. Like so, mineral mixtures are required definitely, but see, you don't manage them in captivity, or you don't have that kind of an arrangement where you can give the mineral mixture to wild animals. But yes, in the zoo, it is a common practice. The mineral mixture is an integral part of zoo animals' feed, just like our other livestock.
Right, sir. Sir, one frequent question is, which of the drugs that you feel are contraindicated in wildlife, or especially rhinos and elephants? Is a common question asked by people. Contraindicated.
Drug mean anesthetic drug or any drug?
Now we have talked, I think, a lot about anesthetic. It's other than anesthetics. If you have.
Basically for some large heavy animals, we avoid certain drugs like antibiotic, enrofloxacin. We try to avoid, but see, only theoretically. In practically, it is not there, because Flobec assay is enrofloxacin, long-acting, and that is the commonly used long-acting antibiotic. And since in the wildlife we don't have an option, we have to give a long-acting antibiotic. We give Flobec assay. So though theoretically it is said that it can affect the cartilages of animals that need to run, that need to work, but it is not very, because a single use may not have a very bad effect, so to say. But certain drugs, like even anesthetic, acepromazine, ACP, acepromazine can induce photosensitization. Sorry, photosensitization. So if you use high dose of acepromazine or repeated use of acepromazine, it can use photosensitization, and then photosensitization. There may be a problem related to that. So we avoid using acepromazine repeatedly.
Right, sir. There are a number of questions, sir, but we'll not put forth. The last question, which is asked by youngsters, is how can we make veterinary profession better? Wherein we get better life in wildlife, we are able to have better values, and we are able to contribute better, less approvals from wardens and caretakers, and more of a vet life into wildlife. So they need your guidance on that. Being a
if I answer that from my life experience, actually I had a passion for adventure, and I like elephants because in my house we had elephants. So like that, I developed a passion and I grabbed the opportunity. But when I started working for wild animals, I found, unfortunately, that every veterinarian, wildlife veterinarian, they had antagonism with the forest officials. And the forest officials never treated them well, and they were not respected. And that fight was always there. Now, after 3.5 decades, I find that I am quite respected, and like I'm a member of the State Wildlife Advisory Body, I'm a member of the Project Elephant Steering Committee, I'm a State Wildlife Advisory Body member of Meghalaya, of Tripura, and like that. So I study in own mind. So if you want a like respectable position, you have to have, first thing is that your own behavior should be like qualifying or that. So you have to be a respectable person in yourself. You respect yourself. Make yourself very knowledgeable physically or behaviorally. We have to be very, very competent and very much self-respecting. It's not that I didn't have fight with forest officials, but when I fought, I ensured that they are defeated. So I will not come back defeated. That is my principle. But I will do it in the extreme conditions. When I find that a certain person is not showing due respect to me, I take it as a disrespect to my profession and I fight. And when I fight to the end. I ensure that that man will have to touch my feet and beg apology, whatever his position may be. So, but then, a humbleness is virtue. Be very humble, be very hard work, and focus on your abilities, physical ability, your mental ability. Make friendship with everybody. Like you will be respected. Like the respect will not come in a platter to you and give it. I told you the veterinarians' problem in our country is that we never respect ourselves. We do not respect ourselves. So how can others will respect us? First thing is that we have to respect ourselves, and then only we can demand respect from others. And that will come when you are skillful, you know your profession, you know your job. Like that only. I think, I don't know whether my answer was clear, but that is my feeling.
Your answer has left behind many points for people to discuss on and look at. So Padma Shri doesn't come from no work. It comes with lots of efforts, lots of endeavors, lots of dedication, respect for yourself, respect for others, humbleness, and in return, what you get back from the society is respect, being an elephant doctor of the Asia and being a Padma Shri winner. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being there with us. Thank you for being on iSpace and Intas platform. Thank you, sir. Thank you to all.
Most welcome, everybody. Dr. Kelawala, Dr. Deepak. Of course, Dr. Bhatia is my good friend, and I have made some appeal to Dr. Bhatia. We want some anesthetic drugs manufactured in India. Now, how long we'll be looking to other countries for our own requirements, sir? Please do something. And I thank all my audience today who came. And if you have any points you are still not clear, personally, I am very open. My phone is always on, so call me and my email. I am very happy to share my experiences and feelings with you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. We'll work on whatever you said, sir. Thank you.
Stay safe, sir. Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.